afternoon to those of you in other time zones, and welcome to the Living in Oneness Summit. I'm Steve Farrell. I'm the Worldwide Coordinating Director for Humanities Team, and I'm really excited about today's program. It's great to be here with you. I'm going to be interviewing a very special guest today, Dr. Roger Teel. We're going to be talking about one of the largest New Thought churches in the world, Mile High Church, that Dr. Roger leads, the Association for Global New Thought that Dr. Roger co-founded and sits on the board of, and the process for living in oneness in our daily life. I know you're going to enjoy this program. We have over 15,000 registered for today's call. Thank you so much, everyone, for prioritizing time to be here for this important conversation. This call is interactive with each of you, our listeners. So I want to invite you to put your questions now, if you would. Just take a second. Put your questions in the question window on Instant Teleseminar. I promise that we'll get to at least a few of your questions during the hour. Some questions are already coming in, by the way, so keep them coming. Thank you. A little about Humanities Team as we get started. In Humanities Team, we see there is only one presence, the divine, and see we are all offspring and expressions of the divine. This means God's love, light, grace, and peace are ours because there is no separation and we share the same essence. Since our founding in 2003, we've done our best to live as one with the divine, each other, and our earth home. We don't need to be perfect or even excellent at this. It doesn't have to feel heavy. We must only do our best. When we talk about oneness with the divine, of course, this is true for all of life, not just humanity. This has repercussions for how we see ourselves, others, and the earth that is our home. Of course, this means everyone and everything is sacred and should be treated as such. It also means we're responsible for the world around us because, in truth, it is part of our authentic self encompassing the whole of the earth. Perhaps there's nothing more important than this, coming to see ourselves as a cell in the body of the divine, the earth, and stepping into a role where we're caring for the earth and the world that we live in. In addition to the Living in Oneness Summit, the focus of today's call, we convene Global Oneness Day, a Spiritual Leadership Award, conscious business programs, service projects globally, prayer and meditation calls, and much more. This program, the Living in Oneness Summit, is now a year-round program. All programs are free and are recorded, so you can listen in for free 48 hours following each call if you miss the live call. Each week, we're interviewing key leaders who can share about living in oneness in our own life, with our partner, as a parent raising children in our home, in the workplace, and as a public service leader. Today, we'll talk about living as one in our own life, with our partner, raising a family, and as a public service leader. Thanks again, everybody, for being here for this important call, and please get comfortable as we get started. I'd now like to introduce our special guest. Dr. Roger W. Teel is a transforming speaker and a global spiritual leader. Through storytelling, humor, and practical spirituality, Dr. Teel's transforming messages, as well as in workshops, classes, business, and national conferences, help empower people and lead them to their limitless potential and to live dynamically. He's backed by exceptional academics. Dr. Teel holds a degree in psychology and religion, a doctor of divinity, and a doctor of religious science degree. He has served pulpits in Oregon, California, and in 1993 returned to his home church, Mile High Church, where he serves as senior minister and spiritual director to over 10,000 members and friends. As a global leader, Dr. Teel has served as chairman of the International Board of Trustees for Centers for Spiritual Living and is co-founder of the Association for Global New Thought. In 1999, 2001, and 2004, Dr. Teel assisted in facilitating the synthesis dialogues with acclaimed global leaders, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He has served on the boards of the Interfaith Alliance of Colorado, the M.K. Gandhi Institute for Nonviolence, the Foundation for Affordable Housing, and the Community First Foundation. And welcome to the Living in Oneness Summit, Dr. Roger. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Steve. It's a joy to be with you today.
And Dr. Roger has a hugely busy schedule. As I mentioned, he leads one of the largest New Thought churches in the world. So really appreciate you making the time to be here. And let's just jump in because there's so many things that I want to ask you. And Dr. Roger, one of the things that I heard about you as a young child was that you had a mystical experience of oneness where you experienced this oneness with all of creation. And I just thought I'd start with that and ask you about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a life-shaping kind of experience. I was too young at the time to really understand it, but now I do looking back. I think I was about 6 years old, laying out on the freshly cut lawn of our home here in Colorado, and I was just looking up at the clouds like a kid might do. And what I remember is that all of a sudden there was this enormous shift, and I was no more. I was the clouds. I was the sun. I was the light. I was the air. In some respects, I thought I had died. And the energy of that experience was phenomenal. In fact, as I came back into kind of my local self-awareness, I felt such energy in me that I remember gripping the lawn with my hands as I laid there on my back, just to stabilize myself. And I hid that away. I didn't even understand it. But then it had to have done something to me. It infused me with spiritual longings I hadn't realized before, and that set me on my spiritual path in this life of mine. And I think it kind of also downloaded some stuff into me, because I began to innately know some things. Some of the traditional religion that I was exploring began as I grew older and older not to really mean to me. I couldn't relate to it because something was within me that intuitively was guiding me. So it sort of led me on this whole path.
Wow, and just pointed you straight into where you are today. And I also read that as a teenager, your family was attending a Church of Religious Science, and something just deeply resonated in you, and I mean very deeply, because you decided to make this your career and profession.
Well, you know, when I'm so like so many other folks who walk into Mile High Church or any New Thought spiritual center, and I just intuitively felt home. And what I was then hearing aligned with, it was congruent with what I deeply knew within me, and then allowed me to understand that early experience and then understand what was within me. And I tell you, as I have written about that very experience you brought up in my book, which is called This Life is Joy, I've had so many people come to me and said, you know, I've had similar experiences. And you know, Steve, I think that's what's so powerful about what you're doing, is you're helping people remember that there was a time in their lives when they knew. And often it was very early in our lives. We didn't know it as consciously because we hadn't articulated that yet or integrated it into intellectual awareness, but we knew. We knew we were one. As the indigenous people have not forgotten, there's that time every one of us knew that we're a part of nature, that we're a part of one another. And I'm so glad you're lifting this up into awareness.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I've got all of my partners and colleagues, many of them listening to this program, and other teammates all over the world. So on behalf of all of them, thank you. Yeah, we're almost all volunteer, and we just like you, have this passion to share what is ultimate reality, because this whole illusion of separation has created so much dysfunction on the earth. You mentioned your book. Your book, and let me just share that book. As Dr. Roger mentioned, it came out in October last year, about a year ago. It's called This Life is Joy, Discovering the Spiritual Laws to Live More Powerfully, Lovingly, and Happily, and it gets 5 stars on Amazon. So also forwarded by the Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. So you might enjoy that.
Oh, and Wayne Dyer. And Wayne Dyer.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Wow. Well, we're going to talk some more about that here in the hour. This hour, I know it'll go fast. We're already 10 minutes into it. Dr. Roger, can you just tell us a little about Mile High Church? I've been there. Let me set this question up a little better. I live in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm maybe 45, 50 minutes from Lakewood, where Mile High Church is, which is just outside of Denver. And this church, as I mentioned in the introduction for Dr. Roger Teel, is one of the largest New Thought churches in the whole world, and but that doesn't really do it justice. The energy of this church, the art, the spiritual experience that you feel, the members, it's extraordinary. And all I can say is I wish every community had a Mile High Church, because it just opens your heart and then brings you into this level of this state of consciousness, and then, of course, all the beautiful things that follow.
Thank you. Well, you know, Mile High is a wonderful tradition, 55-year-old spiritual community that just has grown and grown and grown. And our mission statement is oneness revealed, a world of love, peace, and abundance for all. And we recite that every Sunday, so that we really come back to the realization that we're teaching that all of life is one, as you so beautifully articulated in the opening, that all of life is one. We are living in the oneness. We are expressing out of the oneness. And we just have a really joyous community that teaches people that they aren't worms of the dust, that they're not original sinners, but that they're magnificent blessings to this world. They're gifts of God to God and to all of creation. And we're helping people awaken to their potentiality and to their goodness, and helping them heal. As you said, the illusion of separation creates so much wounding, and we go through our lives and our relationships, and we bump up against one another. And if we don't know that we're one with, that's our brother, that's our sister, then we usually not only create pain in our interactions, but we integrate pain into us. And as Eckhart Tolle says, we carry a pain body with us. And I pray that what we do in this teaching and at Mile High is help people resolve and dissolve the pain body so that the true light of their beingness can express in the world. And I think that we get together and we just celebrate the light together, and it is a beautiful celebration.
Yeah, and you feel that energy when you go to these Mile High Church services. If any of you live, or those of you that do live near Denver, I'm sure some of Dr. Rogers' members are on this call. It is one beautiful experience, and invite people to go. I think there is maybe a Wednesday service and then the Sunday services, and they're
yes, Stephen. Also, anybody can go to our website, milehighchurch.org. And by the way, that's Mile High, H-I, not H-I-G-H, but just milehighchurch.org. And stream any of the services. You can watch past services, or you can be live with us at 10 a.m. Mountain Time and just be a part of our online community.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's right. I've been in there, and I've been in the archive and seen that. And that's again, it's milehighchurch.org, and that's Mile High, HICHURCH.org, and you can attend services there through streaming if you don't live within, say, an hour of the church itself. Well, these messages of oneness are such powerful and beautiful messages, and in a way, the missing messages in today's world, because as we're talking about here, there's so much of a sense in the mainstream that God is up there somewhere in the clouds, and other people are over there somewhere, and this is what, when we call this an illusion of separation, this is what we're talking about. And the foundational messages of the new spirituality are that is this unity of God and humanity, that when we love God, we love all the rest, because God is all the rest. God is the creator and the created. And you of course express that so well in your sermons, and you offer these courses. I was on your site looking at your September programs. I love what you've set up here for your September programs. You and your wife are leading a prayer meditation retreat, and then there's this foundational course as well that you're offering. Can you maybe just share a little about these courses and retreats and things that you offer?
Well, we're all about helping people discover the truth and start living conscious, awakened, spiritually centered lives, heart-centered lives. And so we have a rich tradition in the religious science movement. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, and teaching these universal spiritual principles that are deeply embedded in most of the great faith paths. At the very deep level, Dr. Holmes drew out these universal principles, and he made them relevant to today's world. And the beautiful thing about the truths we're talking about is that they are much more than theoretical. They are experiential, and they're transformational, so that individuals can not only learn these truths, but then put them to work. And that's what I really love. I love the practical nature of this, or the practical impact of these deep spiritual truths that are ageless wisdom, as well as new thought. And so we help people learn and put them to work. And by the way, a number of these courses are available through milehighchurch.org online. So our listeners can participate with us in this.
Yeah, fantastic. So if you go to that milehighchurch.org link, you can see these courses that we're talking about. This process, I know you say about your own life, that really going deeply into this oneness, the mystical experience of it, and just becoming more is so important. And you encourage your members to do the same. Can you talk a little about this?
Well, we seek to practice a simple mantra: deeply we are one. Deeply we are one, and challenge ourselves. How can we show up in the world honoring oneness? And as I write in my book, what we have to do is celebrate uniqueness and honor oneness at the very same time. That's sort of the spiritual art that we get to learn, is how can I enjoy the uniqueness, or what we could say the differences of people and cultures and faiths, and not rail against that. And see, that's what humankind has done. Anchored in a fearful ego, humankind has separated from the other and made the other wrong because they are different. But the divine creator, the all-originating spirit, didn't create just one flower, but thousands of varieties of flowers and varieties within the varieties. And so it's obvious that the creator of this all that's living in and through us loves the diversity, loves the variety of things. And so what we get to learn how to do is to honor the oneness and celebrate the uniqueness. And so we have a vibrant and growing interfaith facet of our community. And what we want to do is build bridges among the faiths and honor that we're very unique, but not make anything wrong or anyone wrong. Now, of course, if faiths become toxic and start doing toxic things in society, we have to stand up for justice and equality and things like that. But at the heart of the spiritual path, it's about knowing that there are many routes to divine awareness, and we need to honor all those routes because that's a part of our spiritual practice. So this deeply we are one, that's our challenge, both in our community as we seek to empower that, but for us all, everybody listening. You go out in the world and you're amongst many different people, carrying that awareness of, I celebrate your uniqueness and I know who we really are. We are one.
Yeah, I love that. Such a powerful combination. And sometimes, especially people newer to oneness, will sometimes think of oneness as kind of a homogenization, like milk-type process, and where we all become the same. And so it is so important to bring in that celebrating the uniqueness. I love that.
Yeah, unity doesn't mean uniformity.
Yes, no, not at all. And it would be a boring world. And, of course, the United States with our 50 states, gosh, don't we all bring something unique? And in this world, gosh, the Olympics, I love that parade at the beginning where the people are all coming in from around the world. And just you look at each of these sets of athletes and their culture and just the richness of the diversity. Gosh, it's just beautiful to behold.
I know it, and just think about where you live, Steve. You live in Boulder, or what we in Colorado call the People's Republic of Boulder. And my wife and I, we often love to come up to Boulder because it's wild up there. I mean, incredible, odd, walking down the Pearl Street Mall, you see it all, and it's cool. It's really cool.
It is really cool. Thank you. Well, back at you, we're the Mutual Admiration Society here because I just love you and your church. I've attended some of the Association for Global New Thought functions, including something they called Awakened World a few years ago. It was in Rome and Venice, and I missed the Venice part, but I was in Rome, and Roger and his wife were there, and I've been in a few other things with Roger and his wife, and you're just such a lovely man, and you and your wife together are. I love that you say I date. One of the things I love to do is date my wife.
Yeah, we've had a habit of dating every Friday night.
Well, it's wonderful. You feel oneness, and of course that's what's so important about oneness is we share. In Humanities Team, we're not professional authors or speakers. Our value proposition is just creating a community of people that are living it to the best of our ability, and I think that's what gives the oneness message power is the authenticity of living it, and you certainly feel that in your company and in your church. So
yeah, well, what you do, Steve. You're a part of a wave that is cresting, and it's moving in the ocean, and it's moving toward human awareness. It's cresting, and you're part of bringing this message of oneness back from the depths of our consciousness into active awareness, and I again acknowledge you for that. And humanity has required pain and suffering to create awakening, And we see so much pain going on in the world, so much ecological degradation, and all of it coming from a mindset of separation and unrelatedness and lack of compassion. And so I feel like the way you're a part of a cresting awareness that's saying to the world, let's stop learning these lessons through breakdown and through suffering, and let's awaken to this truth and let it proliferate. And I can acknowledge you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, and I'll give that acknowledgement to all of the Global Council. We have about 40 volunteer leaders, and all of the volunteers that are part of Humanity's team and the teammates. By the way, our Facebook community today, just in the last couple hours, went over 300,000, and it's growing by 6,000 to 12,000 a week right now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And what's important about that isn't the number; it's that our messages of oneness, of course, are what we're posting. With seriousness, with heart, and with humor throughout the day. And got a beautiful team, including Nanette Kennedy, who leads that team that created that community. But it's wonderful that these messages of oneness are just touching more and more people. And it's called Humanity's Team Worldwide for people that haven't friended us on Facebook. Well, Dr. Roger, let me go to your just talking about oneness and leadership, because, again, you do have one of the largest New Thought churches in the whole world, and I've shared my experience, which is similar to some of the other leaders of Humanity's Team who are involved in creating this call. They're actually running this call right now. They've also attended the church. It's been an incredible experience, and I've heard you talk about leadership. I've heard you talk about servant leadership as one dimension of that, but the spiritual connection is another dimension. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you see leadership?
I think leadership needs to be grounded in compassion and in the message we're talking about today, oneness. And also I think leadership, I know that leadership has to come from a space of owning that everything that goes on in my life or anyone's life is a mirror reflecting ourselves back to ourselves. So to be an effective leader, I need to be willing to grow, and I need to be willing to take every experience that I have in my life, every relationship, and see it not just as about the other person and them being ornery or whatever they're being, but I need to see it as a reflection, awakening me to me, helping me see my defenses, see my blind spots, see whatever I need to continue to see to awaken ever more fully and to get out of my own way. So I believe leadership has to have that essential quality of consciousness and personal responsibility, and then with an open heart. And in my book, I emphasize the power of an open heart so all throughout it. Because that, for me, that was next to that incident you brought up when I was 6 years old, and I had that immersion, that transpersonal experience. Next to that was an experience I had of heart opening, where my heart chakra flew open after going through a terribly painful, wounding betrayal experience. During the healing of it, I realized that whole experience was reflecting me back to me, that I'd been living with a closed heart. And as I was supported in opening my heart, everything in my life shifted from then on and continues to be blessed. So I think a leader has to take that personal responsibility to keep growing and then to center in the heart so that our compassion is there, and that also opens up the creativity that you need as well. So I think, for me, Steve, that's fundamental.
Yeah, isn't it, though? Boy, I love as well the question that you sometimes pose to an audience. You'll say, what profits a person if we gain the whole world and lose ourselves? And then who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to ask, what's the name of the game for us? And why did I come here? Why did I come here? Did I come here just to collect the most amount of things, to compete with everybody to end up with the highest bank account when I'm done? What did I come here for? Did I come here to dominate others and create a sense of separation by personal power, the illusion of personal power? Or did I come here with a deeper gift? Did I come here to be a part of the flow of this oneness and to learn how to collaborate and cooperate and co-create? And what's my deepest spiritual gift? that's the depth we can go to when we realize that we're already one with the divine. We don't have to work to become spiritual. We already are that. And that's a part of the illusion of separation, is that many of us have been programmed with the idea that we're not enough, that we're intrinsically flawed, missing something. And this teaching helps us realize, no, we're not flawed. That's an idea that has taken root in us, and that's our big challenge, is to overcome and unlearn a whole lot of nonsense that we've learned along the way, so that our true magnificence is free to flow and to shine.
Yes, but that is such an important message. It's something in Humanities Team we talk about quite a lot, too. We already are that, because so often there's this sense that, we need to, now as we awaken, there are all these things we need to do to really come into this oneness, and it's silly, as you share, because we already are all one, and that's the beautiful invitation, is that if this is ultimate reality, and I'm guessing people on this call do see oneness as ultimate reality, then why would we waste any time just living in an illusion of separation of people over there and God up in the clouds somewhere? Instead, wouldn't we have a much more fulfilling life, to say nothing of the value we bring to our community and the world, if we just embody it and know that we're all one, and just live from that place and not worry about excellence and perfection? In a sense, I grew up in the Christian church myself, and of course the story of Jesus walking on water is quite prominent. And the one sad thing about that story is I think so often people want to equate oneness with that kind of perfection or mastery, and we don't see that as the case at all. And this is, we're going to talk about Global Oneness Day a little later. Dr. Rogers part of Global Oneness Day this year. We'll talk about that. But we have over 40 leaders from all over the world and from all of these different domains: world leaders, spiritual leaders, entertainers, scientists, and they're all saying basically the same thing during Global Oneness Day. They're saying we are all one with the divine, each other, and our earth home. And so if this is true, then don't we want to just find our own way of embodying it and finding, Dr. Roger was talking about this, celebrating our diversity, celebrating the unique gifts that we bring. Isn't that where we want to place our attention, and really living it, embodying it, and celebrating the gifts that we're bringing to it, and celebrating the gifts that others are bringing to it?
Indeed. Your remarks, I just have to say that this new thought, ageless wisdom that is surging up into awareness, is not a self-improvement game. It's not a self-improvement course. What we're saying is it's a recovery of the original blessing that is in every one of us and the truth of our being. And we've been so deeply programmed culturally in the West of the not enoughness, and so now we're coming out of that illusion so that we can become revealers of a higher truth. So I'm so happy we're doing this.
Amen. Yeah, we never were separate. We're certainly not separate now. One of the courses that you offer, you mentioned a little earlier that you, of course, came from religious science. It's now called the Centers for Spiritual Living, and Dr. Ernest Holmes was the founder of the Centers for Spiritual Living. He's an amazing man. Many of us have read his books. On your site, the first step course that you share is Beyond Limits. Can you talk a little about that? That's, I know, foundational for your members as they really step into this.
Yeah, in Beyond Limits, we help ourselves understand a whole new view of reality, a whole new sense of who we are, and unlock the creative potential within every one of us. And so it's a wonderful 8-session experience of coming back into clear understanding of these ageless truth principles that are very available to us in this modern day, and putting them to work in our lives, not only to improve our lives in every dimension, but also then to reveal more of who we really are. And I've seen people in these classes heal their bodies, because their bodies were really ill, not because there was something intrinsically wrong, but because of the stress buildup of the negativity and the toxins, the inward toxins were then affecting the body's functionality. I've seen individuals ditch a career path that they felt enslaved to and really honor their new and higher vision for their lives. I've seen people forgive, do deep forgiving and let go of something that they were dragging around in their life like a ball and chain. I've just seen so many glorious things. I've seen people open their hearts finally and let love in. Because, one of the things we learn in the class is that the ego, which is the illusion of a separate self that's inadequate and fearful, the ego ultimately defends against love. Love is too threatening to a highly active, fearful ego. And so we resolve that, and I've seen people open up to the beauty of love in their life. And so many wonderful things when we know the truth. And like it says in the Bible, when we shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free.
Boy, that's so beautiful. And when I experience these kinds of things, the healing and that comes out of a program or seminar or sermon or conversation such as this one, it's just beautiful that's really the fruit of this work, isn't it, where we are in working with people and we hear their personal stories and we see the healing such as what you described. It's beautiful.
You said something earlier I wanted to come back to, Steve. You said that it's not about us having to do it all perfectly, and I so acknowledge that. There's a mistranslation in the Bible that be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. And so we've always thought that, when we make a mistake, it's a grievance against God and all this kind of stuff. And really, the deeper translation is be whole, as that which you come from is wholeness, oneness. Be whole. And I think the illusion that we've perpetuated is that our value as beings is in our outcomes. And so when outcomes don't meet our desires, we feel valueless. We feel inadequate. And that's a terrible kind of a way to live. Our value is in our beingness and our willingness to take every experience and use it as an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to unveil more of who we are rather than a put down. And so that's what we also do in this work is we help people resolve the past as a ghost that haunts them and really understand that they're more than their outcomes. Sure, we all want to have great outcomes and great results in our life, but our value isn't based on that. And when you know that, then you can take some risks. Then you can go for it because you know that you're going to come out a winner. You're going to learn from whatever the outcome is, and you're also going to uplift yourself and not become alienated from yourself in the process. So, we don't have to do it perfectly. We just need to remember who we really are and keep revealing more of that.
Oh, I love that. It's beautiful. Value our beingness, yes, and not get all tripped up by mistakes and, words like sin and because, growing is we're going to make operational mistakes. I'll call it.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, especially when we're younger, but as adults too, as we know. If we can just be compassionate with ourselves, and I know you work with Hay House, and Louise Hay, of course, makes this her primary message that forgiveness and starting with ourselves, because I guess as she's traveled the world, she's seen so many people who don't forgive themselves. They're so hard on themselves that they can't really get out beyond that and be of value to themselves and the world.
Yeah, and when we can truly honor what we really are, not in an egotistical way, but in a humble yet clear way, and defer to that larger voice of truth within us, then we can go out in the world and build bridges in this world. And Steve, would you be willing to have me? I'd love to share an incident that happened with the Association for Global New Thought.
Please do. I was going to ask about that, so please do. That's perfect, Roger.
Well, the Association for Global New Thought was formed by a number of us in this New Thought Ageless Wisdom tradition, like Michael Beckwith, Howard Caesar in Houston, Mary Manon Morrissey, and many other wonderful people. And Barbara Fields, who's our executive director, was founded 18 years ago to get this teaching out into the world and relating to world leaders and things going on. And you mentioned that we created something called the Synthesis Dialogues, which we did 3 times. That involved world spiritual and social leaders and interacting with the Dalai Lama. And one of the incidents that occurred in the last of these synthesis dialogues, when we were meeting outside of Rome, and a young, vibrant Jewish rabbi encountered on the steps, as people were registering at the start of this thing, encountered a young Muslim journalist who lived in Canada but was a Muslim journalist. And the sparks began to fly. They were at each other's throat. They were screaming and yelling at each other, accusing each other. And we, who were the facilitators of the dialogues, intervened and said, would you be willing to suspend this conversation until our first session tomorrow? And we'll just enter into our dialogues with your experience with each other. And so would you hit the pause button and start tomorrow with the same conversation? And they agreed. And so the next day we all gathered, and after some introductions to things, we had them start talking together, and it happened all over again. They were just accusing each other, railing at each other, angry at each other. The vitriol was just flying. And we who were in the larger group witnessing this just held the space for them to keep doing this, and they did it all day long. And we who were the conveners got together at lunch and even at dinner as well and said, hey, is this going anywhere? Or is this just the way that it is in the world? It was a kind of a microcosm of the conflicts in the Middle East. And we had a wonderful friend there, Bill Urey, who has written a number of conflict resolution books. And his book at the time was The Third Side. And he said, let's maintain the third side. Let's just keep the container for this going. Let's trust it. And so the next day it all started off again, each of them accusing, new accusations, new you did this, you did that. And then one of the facilitators had the wisdom to ask them, after a couple hours of that, to talk together about the pain that they experienced in all of this. And that shifted it away from events of the past and belief systems and accusations. And each one of them very eloquently, very, very movingly talked about the pain that they had personally experienced, that their families and people they knew in their culture. The shocking thing that they both realized is that their pain was identical, absolutely identical. Then we asked them to talk about their dreams for themselves, for their culture, for the Middle East. Their dreams were identical. At the end of that session, the two of them were embraced in a hug, and they became inseparable throughout the rest of the conference, always eating together, walking together, talking together, and I'm told that they maintained connections in the years that followed that. And for me, and I write about that in my book as well, it just lives as such a powerful illustration that there are bridges if we want to go to a deeper level of connection within us. We all experience pain in this world. It's not easy being in the world. But when we remember that we're in the world but not of it, we can even transcend that pain. And we all want, I believe, pretty much the same thing if you really boil it down. We want love in the world to prevail. We want our children to be safe. We want the world to be sustainable, and we want this earth and its natural systems to thrive. We want opportunity. We want creativity. And I believe that deep down we deeply want the brotherhood and sisterhood of humankind. And so for me, that's a metaphor that it can happen if we come to the thing from a different direction, oneness.
That is a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that, Roger. I'm going to bring in some questions here from listeners. There's Jean in Ottawa, Canada, shares this question. I am tired of being an extreme introvert and living my life inside a self-made prison. How can I break myself out? What kinds of things can I start doing?
Well, first of all, did you say her name was Jean?
Yes, Jean.
Jane.
Jean.
Jean. Jean, I would first of all invite you to accept your uniqueness and not make being, quote, an introvert, which is a label we toss around, a sense of inadequacy for you. we're all different in that range. Some of us are more quiet, and we need our time alone, and others are more out there and gregarious. But there's no right or wrong to any of that. So first of all, I would invite some self-compassion in this. I mean, if you can bless yourself and make peace with yourself, then I believe you will have the foundation to go forth trusting yourself. But if you make yourself wrong, that's not a very solid foundation to go out into the world in the ways that you feel called to. And then I would ask you to ask yourself, what's your vision for your life? And rather than a bunch of shoulds and oughts, like I should be out there more, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, what are you called to be in this world? And go forth with that. So self-compassion so that you can trust yourself, and then be in the world the way you want to be in the world. There are no standards for how you ought to be, but if it's vision-driven for you, it'll work for you, and you'll be pleased with it.
Oh, that's beautiful, and that's oneness stated in such a practical way. So beautiful, Roger. Let me bring in another question here as well. This is from Monica in Colorado, and she says, do you feel one can be a good leader if he or she chooses to be more of a model for love and compassion and less of a saying it out loud demonstration?
Well, that's where it really always comes down to. We can all talk about everything. We're talking about a bunch of stuff today, but we're all called to live it, to walk the talk, as it were. So yes, Monica, it's a wonderful reminder that all of us are challenged as we listen to all this to ask, how am I going to go forth in this day, or in this moment even, to really, live this to the best of our ability. Understanding that, as we've also discussed a little earlier here, that there'll be times when it flows well and we're right on course with our intentions to be avenues of compassion and love and oneness, and there'll be times when we aren't, and that too can be useful. Then we can ask ourselves, okay, what does that show me that I can know about myself even more fully? How can I do some more inner healing, or how can I take an idea or a judgment that I've made on another or a situation and dissolve that so some higher consciousness can come forth? But you're right. It's all about, let's go out and be it, model it, be it.
Oh, that's so true, and it reminds me of that of watching the Gandhi movie where he holds up the reporters yelling to Gandhi. He's saying, "What's your message?" And Gandhi holds up was in his silent period, and he holds up a sign that says, "My life is my message." And it is our in the end, that's our legacy, how we live our life in oneness more than what we say about oneness. So true. Well, let me bring in, I want to talk about Global Oneness Day here in a minute, but before I do, I'm just curious, Roger, again, I love the person that you are, and I've seen you and your wife together a number of times, and you all just really radiate oneness, and so I wanted to, and this is the Living in Oneness Summit, so I wanted to ask you about that, your own personal practice for living in oneness, and then just things that you do with your wife that bring you into such this wonderful space that we all can see.
Well, we are blessed with a beautiful family, 2 great sons and 5 grandchildren, and Erica's folks live nearby, and we have extended family around. So, just growing together and loving and learning together is always a great delight. We love to travel, and travel takes you into other cultures and other situations, and it brings you many, many lessons and many opportunities too. So we get to practice remembering that uniqueness is beautiful, and we can honor that deep down, whether it's expressed and realized or not, that there is oneness always. We love nature and communing with nature. Those are some of the things that are really at the heart of our lives right now.
And so with your kids and grandkids too, I'm guessing obviously they are very familiar with your life work, and it's probably, I'm going to guess, just a part of the culture of your home, is it not? This whole aspect of that we naturally live in this place of oneness with the divine.
Yeah, I guess it probably really is. Although, you know what, I don't force this stuff. But I think that the more you've been in there, you just live a certain way, and people pick up on it. You don't have to preach at them or anything like that. And I think, I pray that there's some benefit in the way we approach things, my wife and I, and people, our kids and others absorb some of that. But, I've never really forced them to, come to church with us or to our spiritual center or participate in anything. It's their choice, because I honor that they're on their own path too, and it's a perfect path, and it's right for them. They came here with, I believe, with a mission and a goal. So I want to honor that, and if they pick up something from me, great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, life is always an invitation, and also in oneness, there's so much. Some of what where the healing is coming in are where the dogmas have been, and where there have been people tied to dogma-type understandings. And so, yes, just always extending the invitation, but never requiring, not proselytizing, instead embodying it. It's so much more effective.
That's so important. And I think in oneness, we need to be careful in this very progressive kind of a spiritual direction that we're all a part of, is not to make wrong those who are still desiring and clinging or centered in their own traditions, even if we theologically or philosophically disagree. I mean, again, that's a part of our oneness is to bless that, and that, because I tell people, if somebody's really ready to come on over to Mile High, and because they've seen you, using Monica's term, modeling more effective high consciousness living, great, bring them along. But if somebody's happy in their own spiritual path, leave them. I mean, if that's serving them, great.
Yeah, absolutely. To each person their own path, and their unlimited path to the mountaintop.
I would add, there are a lot of people, a growing, huge universe of people who are seeking more than ever now. And I think it's also because of the incredible challenges that we've manifested, that humanity has created for humanity's awakening, and that those challenges have caused many people to examine what they've held the world to be and where they've come from in this life. And it's set many on a path of searching. So I know that's true too.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about, almost every family talks about physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, but how often do we really have the spiritual health in our family that we'd like to see? And I think it's these principles that we're talking about that create the spiritual health, where we're in that flow of life, that flow of the divine, really know it is present, and we live in it and invite it in and to guide us, to support us, etc. And then we feel it, we embody it, and we're our health reveals it. Well, let me go to some responses that came in to your earlier sharing here, Roger. Olivia in Kingsman, Arizona said, Roger's story about the men sharing pain and dreams is a good lesson for all of us when approaching any similar situation. Thank you for sharing it. It brought tears to my eyes. Also, Nanette in Colorado, who's one of the leaders in Humanities team, was reminded of a project that we were involved in a few years ago, where youth from the Palestine and Israel, young girls, were coming over here to Colorado, and it was the same kind of, they were placed in a setting where they could just talk about their lives.
I remember hearing about that, yes.
Yes, in fact, we met with them over at Mile High, so I think your church might have been a sponsor of that too, Roger.
Yes.
But it's so amazing to just give people a place and space to talk and heal together. Well, let me turn to global. Yeah, please, Roger.
I just want to make one little thing. The incident that I shared about the Muslim journalist and the rabbi. The rabbi was a man named Mark, but the journalist was a lady who lived in Canada but was a Muslim journalist there. So I just wanted to make sure the response was two men, but it was actually a man and a woman.
Oh, right. Got that. And as we mentioned earlier, too, just this book that this account is given in, Roger wrote about a year ago. It's called This Life is Joy, Discovering the Spiritual Laws to Live More Powerfully, Lovingly, and Happily. And that's getting a 5-star rating. You can order that at Amazon. Let me talk about Global Oneness Day because, Roger, it's just total pleasure to have you. You've been a part of Global Oneness Day. Of course, AG&T has co-convened 2 years in a row Global Oneness Day with Humanities Team, and this year many of your leaders have got big key roles, including you. You're leading this Oneness in 12 Spheres panel that Barbara Marx Hubbard is on. Also, some leaders from Humanities Team are on that panel, and that's 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Global Oneness Day is on Saturday, October 24. This is the 6th Global Oneness Day, and it's the first time that it's been on a Saturday. So we're excited because I think we're going to have we always have great participation. It's our biggest spiritual activism event of the year. But on a Saturday, we're thinking, wow, it'll just be so much easier for people to listen in. So, just any comments that you might want to make about that day, Roger. And thank you again for putting time aside to lead that panel.
Hey, I'm delighted. I'm looking forward to getting to know Anna Marie and her work in South Africa with Ubuntu and her passion for that, for Juan Carlos and his work in Mexico, and also because I just love Barbara Marx Hubbard and Barbara Fields. Barbara Marx Hubbard was a part of the original founding team for the Association for Global New Thought. She's one of the greatest futurists, a tremendous, powerful person who talks about conscious evolution, and she's just an amazing Renaissance woman. And Barbara Fields is our executive director for the Association for Global New Thought. She is a former coordinator for the Parliament of the World's Religions, and she's an amazing, powerful, wonderful person. I got a feeling this conversation is really going to be off the charts, just off the charts.
It is going to be off the charts, yes. And Barbara Fields, gosh, of course, she is on that panel too. She has been this key partner that's worked so closely with Humanities Team over the years. If you go to globalonenesssummit.org, you can read about Global Oneness Day. That's globalonenesssummit.org. That's kind of a mouthful, and Oneness and Summit puts 3 S's together, so it's going to look a little funny. What you might want to do is just Google Global Oneness Day, and you'll see that URL. You can click on it and read about Global Oneness Day. But many of the key leaders of the Association for Global New Thought, which was, again, co-founded by Dr. Roger Teel, are participating in Global Oneness Day. At the beginning of the day, Michael Bernard Beckwith is there on the welcome panel, the opening panel. I'll be on that panel also. And then the hour-long panel that follows is called Catalyzing an Awaken World, and Michael Beckwith is also on that panel. So that's going to be amazing. And then shortly thereafter is this one. It's called Oneness in 12 Spheres of Life. It's based on this wheel of co-creation that Barbara Marx Hubbard created. In Humanities Team, we call it Oneness in the 12 Spheres of Life, and we explore each of these spheres, what it looks like when we live as one in each of these spheres, and education as one example. So that's going to be an amazing panel. Roger Teel will lead that panel, Barbara Marx Hubbard, Barbara Fields, Anna Marie Petiers out of South Africa. She's our Humanities Team South Africa coordinator, and some other key people are on that panel too. So be sure to check that out, globalonenesssummit.org. That is going to be extraordinary, and the whole day is extraordinary. It's a 12-hour program. It is free, and if you miss some of it, and most people will, I do listen to the whole 12-hour program myself. In fact, I moderate quite a number of panels. Most people can't listen for 12 hours, so for 48 hours, we do provide a link so you can listen into any of those sessions for free also. So, yeah, be sure to check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. Well, Roger, we're going to go into a wrap-up. I want to talk about some coming programs and things here before we close the call. But before I do, let me just, if I may, give you a minute to, we've covered so much ground here, to address maybe any one important thing that you'd like to come back and underscore, or invitation you'd like to extend. And also, if you could leave the website that people can go to follow your work.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again for the opportunity. And I just think I'd like to leave a little vignette with everybody. It's about a cat that was stalking a mother mouse and her 5 offspring as they were out in the morning hunting for food. And like a good cat, it had all the mice cornered and was about to pounce as the 5 little mice cowered behind the mama. And then almost unexpectedly, the mother mouse began to bark loudly like a dog. Bark, 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 bark. And this so shocked the cat that it became frightened. It turned tail and it ran away as fast as it could. And with that, the mother mouse turned to the little mice and said, matter-of-factly, now, children, you can see the power in knowing a second language. And what I want to leave with us is that humanity is being called to learn a second language, and that language is oneness. It is oneness. It's a universal language, a deep-seated language. It's in every one of us, and we need to learn it and live it, no matter what our cultural language might be. And that allows us then to proclaim our shared essence among one another, and to do what we've been talking about, to celebrate uniqueness while at the same time honoring oneness, understanding that everyone we encounter is both our teacher and a being of light. And I just want to empower everybody to think of themselves far beyond their personal challenges, far beyond their past, far beyond what they face in this moment. Know yourself as a being of light, a God-intended, God-ordained being, endowed with, imbued with beautiful, precious, powerful qualities, and we need you. We need you to own who you are, live it, and help us lift up and heal this world and create what I believe the great teachers were calling us to create, the kingdom of heaven on earth as it is in heaven, on earth as it is in the mind of God, becoming manifest through us and through our oneness.
Beautiful. That is a wonderful invitation, and yes, may we all step into it, and beautiful. And Roger, let me just thank you so much for being here with us for this hour. You've been fabulous. I'm going to cover some announcements, and I'm going to thank you again, but I want to at least get started here now. I want to share this program, of course, is focused on living in oneness, so I want to invite people to check out something that's fairly new in Humanities Team. It's called Community Circle, and it's for people that want to journey into this richer, deeper place of oneness with the divine and each other. If you go to the humanitiesteam.org website and click on it, up at the top in green, there's a Join Us button, and you can click on Join Us, and it'll tell you a little about the program. We've got all of our programs there for free from this year, our audio programs this year and previous years. There are over 260 programs, so there's some great listening for you and your family, and we have a private Facebook community where we support each other and other things that we do as well. It's only $10 a month. We intentionally created this community as something inexpensive because people around the world are on tight budgets. So you can check that out at the humanitiesteam.org website. Then we have some exciting programs coming up I'll tell you about real quick. A week from today on September 24th, Thursday, September 24th, I'm doing a program with Arthur Joseph, who created something called Vocal Awareness that's based on our oneness with the divine and each other. It's a program that he is out in the mainstream with. So people that aren't necessarily spiritual or religious, but they become spiritual through his program. It's an amazing program. He's trained athletes, people in the media, including people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, actually, Stephen Covey, Angelina Jolie, and others have been through his program. He's a real master teacher with his Vocal Awareness program. So that's Thursday, September 24th, and that's at 9 o'clock Pacific time next week. Then on Thursday, October 1st, I'm interviewing Gay and Katie Hendricks. We're going to be talking about oneness in different parts of our life. This is the second program we've done with the Hendricks. They're just beautiful people with so much wisdom. When we come talk about living in oneness. So that'll be an amazing call. Again, that's Thursday, October 1st at 9 a.m. Pacific time. If you go to the livinginone.com site, livinginone.com, you can read about and register for all of the upcoming calls. And again, all the calls are free. And if you miss the calls, there's 48-hour free listening as well. I want to come back to Global Oneness Day one more time. Roger Teel is participating. He's leading the Oneness in 12 Spheres panel. That's 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, and Barbara Fields is also on that panel. So is Barbara Marks Hubbard and others. Also, I mentioned Michael Bernard Beckwith, but Iyanla Van Zant, Gary Zukoff, Ken Wilber, Marianne Williamson, Gene Houston, Irvin Laszlo, and many others are participating this year. So be sure to check that out. It's on Saturday, October 24th. It's our Earth Day for an Awakened Humanity, and if you go to globalonenesssummit.org, you can read about and register for that program. I want to just come back again here. Dr. Roger, thank you so much for being here for this important call, and all of the, again, your schedule is so busy and definitely could hear your wisdom and heart energy, which is so beautiful. So I want to just thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you to you and to all your team. Doing great stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. And I want to thank also my colleagues here, Nanette Kennedy, Dee Meyer, Penny Heipel, and Monica Augustine. These leaders have created this program. They're running the back end of this call now and the promotions and things. And this Living in Oneness Summit is all really on their backs. So I want to thank them. And all of our Global Council, there are about 40 volunteer leaders around the world that invest so much time in creating Humanity's Team and our global outreach. Finally, last, definitely not least, I want to thank all of you, our listeners, for being here with us today. Thank you for making this a priority. Gratitude to all of you. And in closing, I want to invite everyone to really live as one. That's been a key theme here in this call with Dr. Roger Teel. Ultimate reality is that we are all one. And the way that we create this shift or this awakening that is so important to so many of us is by embodying it. As we've shared, it doesn't have to be serious. It can be fun. And when we live this way, we create health and well-being in our own lives. We bring it to our families, to our communities, and we bring it to the world around us. So be sure to embody it if that invitation feels true for you. Have a marvelous day, everybody, and we'll be back on the air on Thursday next week. So take care. We'll all talk soon. Bye-bye.